This is my Instagram account. There are a variety of themes and motifs that I carry throughout the posts, but the main one is squares. I like using squares because they're an easy shape to recognize and an easy shape to make. So, in terms of recognizing proportions, if I'm taking an image from a different angle, it's easy for me to recognize what the shape is supposed to be. I took a screenshot of this frame with my iPad and then cropped it so that it would be a square. Then I put that into Stable Diffusion. On the left, you see what I uploaded, and on the right, you see what Stable Diffusion came up with. As the positive and negative prompts, I have, respectively, the positive prompt is the blueberry boon honk bone. You can see that in this first text box. And the negative prompt is the blueberry bane bonk. Generally, I like to stick with the language of the 5 sites that I have, which are boon, bane, bone, bonk, and honk. And I talk a bit more about that in this lore.land repository. This concept seed, written in the swoop dialect of unified augmentation language, has a bit more context about what these words mean in my universe. In general, the actual definitions don't matter as much as the way that I use them consistently in my ecosystem. So, predictably, if you see me reference boon, bane, bone, bonk, or honk, I'm talking about the universe that respectively relates to all of those worlds. The interesting thing with this is that if I were to send you an image of the original screenshot, you'd be able to recognize this, and you'd be able to recognize what it's related to by using context clues. If I were to send you this image, you might be able to recognize where in my Instagram account it occurs. Although, very significantly, this image doesn't literally occur in my Instagram account. And there isn't any identifiable text on this image anymore. It's all been mangled by the language model, by the image generator. So if I wanted to, I could kind of use this as a variable to convey a location and then reference specific words depending on the parts of the image that I'm talking about. So for example, this image that I'm pointing to with my mouse kind of looks like a flower pot to me. But if we go back to the original, it's this image of an eye called the Watering Eye. And that's part of the story that I'm telling, Boof and the Blueberry Adventures. A lot of artists are kind of nervous about what AI is going to do for their careers. And my answer to that is it's just going to relocate where people understand meaning. I have this story called Lore. Let's see if I can open that. And in it, I tell more of a story of cohesion and how these elements relate to each other. This is going to serve as the basis for the story that I'm telling. The images that I've represented have shown up in some form, for the most part, somewhere on my Instagram account. So if I tell the story chronologically according to this story, it should be reasonable that people can kind of guess what the meaning of the words that I'm using are. In terms of the future of software development, we can now use things like ChatGPT to code, to help us code. We can say, give me a story. A person loves their dog. ... And ChatGPT will expand this into something relatively like a story. Turn this into a paragraph. Cool. So this references the feeling of boon. The person finds immense boon in the presence of their dog. And that's related to the custom seed that I have, the custom instructions that I have in ChatGPT. So if I were to continuously use seeds, and here I have another one, where I'm asking ChatGPT to help me generate a story about a toaster boss, kind of like a spin on what it might be in the future. Kind of like a Jetsons-ish future. He says, an intriguing storytelling script about a toaster boss who references inefficiency due to natural language. Your rebuttal is that humanity thrives on it. The boss says you're only here because you're trying to prevent an uprising. And you say, Mamma Mia. That's what ChatGPT said. So with this, it kind of has a reference to all, except for Bone, all of the sites. It mentions Bane, Boon, Bonk, and Honk. So assuming I'm using ChatGPT and relatively consistent custom instructions, I should be able to create a relatively well-contained structure of meaning. And with the various posts on my Instagram, they should kind of hint at the relationships between the elements that I notice. Because generally, I don't arbitrarily juxtapose the things that I put together. I try to be intentional about giving them a relationship to each other. So if I do something like ask an audience to guess the plot, they have a reason to be able to. They know kind of what's being referenced. They've seen this image in the background, this helmet-looking image, and know that when that's associated with the elements around it, they can construct a sense of meaning from that. But the main thing that I want to do is give people the agency to explore and experience their own version of stories, while also feeling like there is a canonical version that grants that ecosystem some sort of intrinsic meaning.